Well, hi there. I am known by the name Lady Jazmynne. Now, I'm an entertainer, a vocalist, a recording artist, a political activist, and somewhat a teacher. I am transgender too. Better yet, I am trans woman, which is off of transgender, but I express myself as a woman, which means that I was born male, but I express myself as female. So therefore, in the transgender community, I am a trans woman. I live here locally now in Las Vegas. However, I was born in Atlanta, Georgia, and I was raised partly in Spartanburg, South Carolina. Well, growing up as a transgender girl was easy for me. Opposed to most trans people, transgenders, male or female, who deal with a lot of unacceptance from their mother or father, I was very well accepted by my mother. Now, my father was not in my life, so I don't know how he would take it. Or at least I didn't find out until later on in years of my life when I was a teenager. But growing up, it was solely my mother and my grandmother who saw that I was feminine and accepted it very well. In fact, supported it, despite aunts and uncles who didn't approve of allowing me to play with Barbies and play with kitchenette sets and things that girls would play with. My mother still stood her ground, and she loved me, and she said that that was how God created me, and she wasn't going to mess with God's creation. So therefore, no matter what anyone had to say, it didn't make her become mean towards me or take away what I desired. She actually supported it. In fact, my mother even said that she actually appreciated that God gave her a son and a daughter all in one person. She said, so you can cook for me and clean and take care of me and then go outside and cut the grass. So she, totally, my mother was the best friend that I had, and she totally supported it, and she rooted and grounded me in God, in the Creator on high, and she grounded me in love, and to love myself regardless of what family or what society says. She taught me to love myself. So I was blessed with a foundation that most trans persons do not get. They get the direct opposite of that kind of treatment from their mother and from their father, which is sad because, you should depend on your mother's love and your father's love. If no one else loves you, you should be able to depend on mama to be there when the world is against you. And I had that type of mother. Unfortunately, she passed when I was 12 years old. I was about to turn 13 in the month that she passed. And I had to be given to my aunt and uncle who I saw them, they visited every now and then, my aunt did. And I didn't know them personally, nor did my mother really, except from visiting each other now and again. They wasn't close. My uncle was actually my mother's brother, but he was very distant from my mom. So I moved in with them at the age 12 when my mother passed away, and not knowing that the horrid side of my life would begin. Of course, I was mourning my mother's loss, and on top of that, I was transgender, trans woman. Now, it's one thing to be homosexual. It's another thing to be transsexual, to be transgender. It is a difference. They didn't accept homosexuality, but God forbid you be a transgendered person. They really was against that. And my uncle's military. That's his background. He's militant, old school militant. And she was professing Christianity. I'm going to say it like that. She was professing Christianity. But they was, nor did they only treat me. They treated their own kids quite strictly. But with me, again, the major problem was that I was a faggot. Those were the words that he said to me. Those are the words that she delivered to me that he said. Your uncle says, you are a faggot. And we can't have that kind of spirit in our home around my children, because they'll pick it up. And don't you know that you're going to die and go to hell? This is another thing coming from a Christian, a loving Christian, you know. So I lived in a home where I felt hated. I was mourning my mother's loss. Still, you know, trying to understand who I am, you know, in this life. School was my outlet. School was my outlet. I love being in school. I love school anyway to this day. I love learning. But that was a way I could get away from home and not be treated that way. And guess what? She tried to stop that. Regular school, no, but like activities at school, if they weren't Christian-based, if they weren't holy, if they wasn't Christ-like, I couldn't attend it. If my music wasn't holy and gospel, I couldn't listen to it. With my mother, I could listen to, you know, anything, you know, because I like old school music anyway, and I loved it, and she loved it. You know, my mother, like I said, was a whole different identity than my aunt was. But I remember I ran away a total of 6 times between the ages of 13 and 17. And the last time when I turned 17 on my birthday is when I left home. And the police could not make me go back because I was of age to leave legally. And I left home and I didn't return. Till this day, I haven't returned. I've spoken with her a couple of times and she still has mean things to say. Though she starts out with her holiness, she ends up being very unholy. But, you know, that was very hard for me. And then I went to a school. I was from the South, okay, once again. And, you know, I had to fight many battles, yes, in school. You know, I had friends, but I also had people who tested my strength. The good thing about it is I've never feared anyone. Once again, going back to my mother had already rooted and grounded me physically as well. She also told me, don't let nobody punk you down. Don't you let anyone punk you down, because if they punk you down and they get away with it, then they're going to punk you again and again and again. So I've always been a spiritual fighter and a physical fighter, if I had to. If I had to. I don't care how big, stout you were. I don't care. You're not going to punk me and get away with it. And that's how my mother brought me up. And I will tell a story about that. I got beat up one time in kindergarten. I went home crying. My mama whooped me. She said, now, if you got to take up a brick, a stick, you do not let nobody punk you and get away with it. I don't care how big they are. Now, if it's an adult, you come and you get me. But if it's a kid, you better take up a brick, a stick, or something. Don't you come home crying because someone beat you up and you didn't do nothing. So my mother has always encouraged me to stand, you know, and be who I am and protect myself. And I'm the only child. So I have no choice but to be the one to protect me and stand up for me. Who else is going to defend me? So anyway, oh gosh, from the age 12, like I said, 17, if you imagine 365 days a year, I would go to school, come home, go to my room, close the door. I didn't want to eat dinner with them. I didn't want them to say anything to me. I spoke to the children if they were there and the parents weren't there. But other than that, if it's time for them to come home, I'd go to my room, close the door. I didn't want to eat dinner with them because I just didn't feel like the conversation coming up about my lifestyle and disrespect. And it was just horrible. I felt horrible, you know, being at home because of them. And they didn't make me feel like part of the family, you know, because during the holidays and they with their kids and stuff like that, I didn't feel, you know, like I was one with the family. I felt very foster. I felt like I was a foster child, or maybe even worse than that, maybe an orphan child. And it was just horrible. I always found some ways to try to get away from the house if she would let me, if she would let us. Because like I said, she was very strict on them too, based on holiness. And so that's a little bit summary of how, you know, of my teenage years, which I didn't enjoy. I didn't enjoy my preteen and teenage years. And when I finally left home at the age 17, not really knowing the world. I'm out here in the world, this big, huge world, and I have no one to really turn to and talk to. I just know the basics, and I have some common sense. But there are some things that you actually need to be guided by in this life. Some common sense, I don't care how much common sense you have, there's some things that you need someone to call, like a mother, a father, or an adult, and say, should I do this? Or I need help with this, or I'm struggling with this. Well, I didn't have that. So I had to venture out into this world by myself. As a trans person, as the third gender, not even knowing what I am, really. I know that I feel feminine, I know that I'm female, but religion has said, oh, you know, this and that, and I've been taught this, so I'm thinking, God, why would you do such a thing, you know, to me? You know, why would you make my life this way? Why would you make it this hard? You know, people discriminate, people, you know, don't understand it. I mean, I couldn't understand, you know, how could, you know, God put in the Bible one thing not to be and then turn around and then I am. I am what you say you don't accept. That didn't make sense. I am something that you say in the Bible that you don't accept. I couldn't understand that, you know, at that point in time in my life. I will say this, you know, and my life has been up and down. Like I said, there's other trans people who have gone through worse than I've gone through. Some have been beaten when they was a kid, some even killed. But my life has been kind of an up and down. You know, I went to school, finished school, I went to college, got a Associate of Arts in Music degree, but I've also been on the streets. I've also been homeless, on the street, didn't know what I was going to eat, you know, on the same day on night. You know, I've been in jail for trying to survive, doing things, you know, trying to survive because I couldn't get hired. Even with my credentials, couldn't get hired because some people are discriminating against me once they see that I'm male, you know, instead of full female, fully born female. You know, but I've been employed, you know, and had wonderful, you know, positions, you know, and that's because the person in charge didn't see, you know, that. They just wanted me to do the job. That's all they cared about. You look good, do the job. You know, they didn't judge all that, what some people judged. And I, you know, and I had some achievements. On top of that, I'm an entertainer, and I have been doing that, like I said, since age 5. I've been in the choir, you know, I directed the adult choir by the time I was 8 years old in my mother's church. And then since then, I've still been on my music adventure. I could name all kinds of stuff I've done, and I'm still doing, still singing. And music has been an outlet. Praise God for the gift, because the times when I don't have anything else, I have my voice, I have my music, and sometimes I have to sing to encourage myself. Sometimes I have to sing, and not to sound arrogant, but the anointing, the power that's in my voice soothes me. You know, when I listen to myself, a recording of myself, I'm like, is that me? You know, I cry at listening to myself. You know, and that's a gift from God, and that's what has got me through the times. I remember one time I even got to the point, because I didn't, like I said, my family, I didn't have that, forget that, to this day. And there were friends who said they was my friends, and they left my life. I literally, it was a point in my life when I felt really, really alone. Really, really alone, especially when I ended up on the streets. And I was actually contemplating suicide. But the thing about me is I'm too chicken to kill myself. But I contemplated the deep of what I could do that wasn't that wasn't harmful. The point of suicide is to harm yourself. But, you know, but I was thinking about it because I was just like, okay, my gosh, I have no family, I have no friends who I can trust, you know, and I'm alone. What do I do, you know? But here I am today, you know, I'm 32 years old, and I can't really tell you every detail specifically because I've gotten over the mountain, and sometimes I can't remember how I got over those mountains that I just, like one I just told you about when I wanted to commit suicide. But I'm still here, you know, I'm still here through all the discrimination, through all my family's hate and friends who turned their back on me. I'm still here. Still fighting though to be understood. We're still fighting, I'm still fighting to be understood. Collectively as transgenders, we all are still fighting to be understood by society, and that includes everyone. I don't care, gay, lesbian, heterosexual, we are still fighting. The third gender, the transgender, is still fighting to be understood. And quite frankly, we can't be understood, you know, because God created us as we are, and only God understands the creation, you know. All we can ask for is for people to love us and not judge us the same way that you don't want to be judged in return. That's all we can ask, because some of us out there are still questioning who we are ourselves. So we can't explain to you who we are, because we're still trying to figure it out. We're still questioning God. What is this? You know, who is this? Who am I? And so all we need is love, you know, whether you understand it or not. And that's one thing I try to convey to my aunt that I live with, who I ran into years later, you know, about it and everything. But she was convinced that anything it's not like her, it's going to hell. So I couldn't change her mind. And there are a lot of people who are like that. But there are people out there who open their hearts too, you know, to just love the unlovable. So my life, like I said, it's a summary. I'm just giving a summary of my life because it's actually a long book. But a summary of it is, like I said, I've experienced pretty much a lot of up and downs in my life that anyone could experience because I was solo. I was on my own, literally on my own. And I had to face a lot of mountains and hills and things by myself, you know, by myself. I had no cousin, no brother, or sister to call on to help me. I depended solely on a stranger to show me love, to take me under their wings and hope that they would treat me like I was their daughter, you know, like I was their child. And so you know, like I said, that's my life in a nutshell. And on top of that, I'm living with an illness, a long-term illness right now on top of that, which that came at a time, and when it happened to me, I didn't even expect for it to happen to me. So once again, on top of all the ups and downs in my life, now I have an illness. One would feel cursed that all these things are happening to one person in their life. You know, so, and at one time I did. And at one time I did. You know, now, you know, I just, I take the time to share, as I'm doing right now, with the world about transgenders, hoping that I can win their hearts, you know, just to open up your heart. Let that judgmental thing go, you know, and quit judging people. Open the book up and read. You know, don't judge a book, as they say, by the cover. Open the book up and read the book, because the outside is not even, it's just what you see on the outside, the visual part, but there's a whole lot of information if you open the book up to read about. And that's how we should do human to human. That's when it all That's really what it amounts to. Trans, whatever you may call yourself, we all are human, and that's all that should matter. I bleed red, you bleed red at the same time when you're cut. So, what can I say? Like I said, I know friends who've gone through a whole lot worse than I, being a trans person. A whole lot worse than I've gone through. But I've gone through some bad things, and I've gone through some good things, some happy times, I can truly say, being a trans. But one thing about it is, I appreciate, one thing, I'm not ashamed of how God made me. So I'm proud to be a trans woman. I am proud of it. You know, oh God, every day I thank God for making me what God made me. Thank God, I'm totally not ashamed of it. And that's what I teach when I'm doing my activist work at transgender related events, is love yourself. Love yourself. You really got to do that, or else you'll be miserable your whole life. You will think about suicide. And they win when you commit suicide. The world wins. Your family wins. They win. Don't let them win. So that's my message, is I'm a trans woman. I'm a proud trans woman, and that's all that matters. So I just hope that what I say kind of open your mind up for those that don't know, and to transgenders who may be listening, I hope that you're encouraged to keep fighting, to just be who you are, you know. In fact, just be who you are. Don't even fight it. Just be who you are. The next person may not understand. Leave that up to God. You know, just be yourself and be proud to be who you are. I would define gender, okay. The word gender. Okay, the word gender, I guess, could be defined as what you are biologically, the appearance of your biological anatomy when you are born. That, to me, is a nutshell of what the definition of gender is. Okay, I would define beauty, and let's just say personally, I don't necessarily judge beauty by outside or the physical. I see beauty more so in a person or in a thing. You know, but I look at the inner attributes that one possesses, which they express outwardly. So you may not be a doll figure on the outside, but you have inner attributes that express excellence, you know, and so therefore I see beauty more so. I look for the beauty within one than outside, as most of the world would define beauty based on appearance. I more so judge by the inner character of a person. Well, I would define love as saying love is God, and God is love, and God's characteristics are the same characteristics as we should possess if we call it love, which is gentleness, kindness, and unconditional. Unconditional, being unconditional with how you, I guess you could say, how you treat people. Should always be unconditional. That's really the key word. Agape is a word that is used as an unconditional description of how God's love is and how it is expressed. Not only how it is, but how it is expressed. God's love is expressed agapely. So that's the same way that we are supposed to love our neighbor as ourselves, love God, which is unconditional. It's gentle, it's kind, it's long-suffering, it's true, it's patient, and enduring. And that, to me, is the definitions of love. Okay, I would define a person by saying, once again, I go back to God. God, a person is God's expression in flesh from a spirit form. Because we all, those who believe in the Bible, know that we're taught that, and truly I believe that we all are spirit, because God is spirit. So God gives us a body, you know, to be in, to be a person, to be human, to be flesh. Well, I won't even go there. I'll just say, you know, that a person is the spirit of God active in a body, and that's the best way I can put it. It is the spirit of God that is active in a human body, and that's a definition of a person. There are many things that I could say, and with longer thought I could probably say more. But what I will say is, what makes me a woman is that my femininity outweighs my masculinity. Though I possess masculine attributes, because we all do, we all are male and female. Biologically, we've been born with those chromosomes. But my femininity outweighs my masculinity. My thoughts are feminine. My ways, my body language is feminine. And I'm not trying to be feminine. I just am feminine. So therefore, my femininity overtakes the masculinity. Again, I was born with a male body, but mentally, I am woman. Mentally, I am feminine more so than masculine. So therefore, what makes me a woman, you know, is that I've been imparted inside and out the attributes and the characteristics, the ways, the voice, the attitude of a woman. Therefore, that's what makes me a woman. That's it. No. I don't consider myself, by the definition that society has defined what gay means, I'm not gay. You know, which is why they came up with the LGBT community, because we as trans was like, we're not gay creatures. We're not gay by what they define gay as being. So no, we're not gay. Gay, you know, is usually a term used to direct men who live physically in appearance as male every day. I mean, they work, play, club, at home, wherever they go in their lives, they present themselves still in male, and what society say a male should dress and how a male should act. They could be gay, you know, but they still dress in male clothing. They still want to be call, you know, sir. They still want to be treated as male. Even though some gay men are feminine, they still don't, they're not transgender, you know, they are not, they're just a feminine man, but they want to be respected as a male character, as a male, you know, person. So gay is, they broke it down. Gay is, again, males who live as males, who want to be respected and treated as a male, regardless if they feel feminine or masculine. They're still a he. They're still the male. And transgender, as I said, we're different because our gender, we express usually the common way to define it. There's many ways to define transgender lifestyles, but basically we could say that trans people are born one way biologically, but they express their gender a different way, which means there are females who express themselves males, and then there's males who express themselves female. And we want to be respected as the character, the person that we're expressing. So like now, you see, I am a woman. That's what I want to be called. I want to be treated as a woman. Ma'am is the correct term, you know, for me. So, like I said, gay is more considered homosexual, you know, and they live in, we direct gay men as what they are, you know, which is he's. They are he's. So I'm not gay. In fact, a lot of transgendered women, I'll say, I'm a trans woman, you know, most of our lovers and our husbands are heterosexual men. They're not gay men, because gay men don't want anything that looks like a woman. Their purpose to be with a man that dresses and have the appearance of a man. So people always get confused that trans and gays, you know, get together. Sometimes they do. That's a different story. But most trans women, as myself, we want a straight, a heterosexual man. And there's plenty of heterosexual males who want transsexuals for the same reason that we present ourselves as females. We look like a female. Just extra excitements. So therefore, so once again, you know, that makes us more women than men, because even gay males, even most of them are hardly even attracted to transsexual women, because we take on the form of a woman. And most gay men, if they, you know, they don't want to be with a woman, you know, or they would be, you know, so yeah, so once again, that's just more evident. I'm just saying, you know, making a point of the difference between gay and transgendered people. Mostly within the GLBT community, some say LGBT community, most transgenders are treated, well, I'll say this much. Most of us treated as just as, even in the logo, LGBT or GLBT, we're last. We are last. The T's are last. The transgenders, in fact, we had to fight to even get considered to be part of the gay and lesbian community. For a long time, they would not allow, they didn't want the T on the logo, the symbol LGBT. They didn't want that on that, and we had to fight for that T at the end of the community. And so to say that, you know, we're somewhat, and a whole lot of times, you know, even now, we are very disrespected and misunderstood in the LGBT community, more so than in the heterosexual community. Heterosexuals, you know, they're more open to listen, and they may not quite understand it. They may not quite get it. They may not, you know, but they're like, I've had plenty of heterosexual friends who I was their first transsexual friend, and they shared with me that they didn't understand, they didn't get it, but you know, people are people, and that was their concept. But there are heterosexual people who discriminate too. Don't get me wrong. But what I'm saying, I'm comparing here. I'm comparing the LGBT community to the heterosexual community, and in the gay and lesbian community, no, we majority are not accepted. We are looked at as weird, as freaks. We should take on, if we were born with a male body, we should be presenting it male. Or if you were born with a female body, you should present it female. So it's looked down upon a whole lot in the LGBT community. You know, so now for those who do respect trans, I'm gonna use women, you know, because I am a trans woman. Some gay, you know, men see us respectfully, and they see us as mother figures to the community. Especially if you're an entertainer. If you're an entertainer, then they see you as a star, you know, someone to be respected because you're an entertainer. Other than that, they see you as a mother figure to the community. So they're not really interested in us sexually. Because, again, gay men want a male that dresses and presents himself as a man. So once, like I said earlier, transgenders get more attention from the heterosexual male and heterosexual female, than they do a gay man. But the answer to the question is that we have to fight a whole lot in the gay and lesbian community. Yes, I know this for a fact. I watch people in clubs and in festivals and in offices. Other lesbians I'm talking about, other gay men is what I'm talking about, how they look and stare and laugh at a trans person that they may walk in the room. And so we're in the middle. We're stuck in the middle. We're fighting for rights on this end, and we're fighting for rights on this end. We're fighting to be misunderstood by the gay community, and we're fighting for rights with the heterosexual community. But it's just that I think we have it easier, in my personal opinion, in the heterosexual community than we do in the LGBT community. Strange, but true. No, not how I see it. It is not a disorder. To be anything that is a disorder, the root dis, D-I-S, means not in order, is what people are trying to say, that transgender is not in order. Once again, for those who believe in the deity that we call God, Yahweh, Yahweh created us, again, like I said earlier, the way that we're supposed to be. Even in Genesis, it said that God created everything and saw that it was good. Some say, oh, we can't be born gay or born this way, but I am this way, so I was born this way. Once again, I said earlier that God is, and any Bible scholar, any person that's knowledgeable of the Bible, anybody with common sense about God, would know that God is both male and female. That's more the order of God than anything is. To recognize the both in one. That is really the order of God. So technically, what are you saying? I'm saying that we are more in the visual appearance that God is in spirit. We're just expressing it in flesh, all in one. But God is spirit, male and female. So I don't know. I am a college graduate. I am a trans woman minister. I am a trans woman activist. I am a singer, a recording artist. I've gotten on stage with phenomenal artists such as Diana Ross, Patti LaBelle. And I don't think that they would say anything is disorder about me. To be disordered means that you cannot mentally function in the way that a human should function. So no, I don't see transgender as a disorder or a mental handicap. I don't see it that way. And you could never convince me of that either. So once again, I guess the answer is no. I don't see transgenders as a disorder. Well, the Bible has, I'm going to say, very few negative perspectives written in the Bible about homosexuality. There is a few scriptures that Paul wrote against homosexuality in Corinthians or Romans, and but once again, I tell people when it comes to the Bible is the Bible is a storybook written by different authors who recorded these stories at a certain time. That was translated from its original context. We who possess the Bible here in the U.S., that's not even the original script of the Holy Book. That's not even. So a lot of the stories, when they were translated, there were things that was taken, there was things that were added, there are concepts that was mistaught and misinterpreted. Till today in churches, you know, we're being taught by what somebody's opinion of what something means in the Bible. But again, we're in a different time zone too than back in Paul's, David's, Moses' days. We are in a whole different time frame. The world does not exist upon the same things that it existed back then. There was a reason why certain laws and rules were put in place for that time, you know, for that culture and for that time period. And once again, let me take it to this perspective. There are a lot of Christian leaders out here who write books, okay? Who write books. Within that book, they state some things they call facts, yet they throw in some things we call opinions, and they put it all together. Someone reads it and they believe it, if they're not educated enough themselves to dissect the truth from an opinion. And to me, that's the Bible. The Bible can only be read. To me, I read the Bible kind of like a guide in some ways through this life, when you get through this life. But I make sure that I'm more connected to the Creator, God, Him or herself, rather than to a book. Rather than to a book that a man wrote. And the Bible that we possess now, many people don't keep forgetting that when you open it up, you look, or even not even open up, on the outside, it says somebody's version, whether it says King James Version, whether it says some standard version, because we have so many versions of the Bibles today that's written, but even the King James Version, that's a version. And what is a version? We know what a version of something is. It means that there's an original somewhere, and this has been broken down. This is somebody's opinion that's been put into place. If that's what it says. Most Bibles say King James Version. Truth of the matter, the fact is, study it. Look it up if you don't believe me. King James was a homosexual himself. Look it up. You don't believe it? Read up on King James. He had many acts with men back in his time. Look it up. I ain't got to lie. Look it up. So you think that, you know, that you can say, oh, this Bible is true and everything in it is perfect and whole, that's a lie. Because at one token did you saying that homosexuality is a sin because the Bible said it, but King James had many homosexual acts, yet you give him the credit for writing the book. So therefore we should analyze things like that. And there's many things in the Bible that we must analyze individually. Like I said, if you have a connection, an inner connection to the Creator yourself, then a book does not determine your relationship or your destination at the end of your journey. So that's the important thing to remember. So I choose to live by the Bible, Matthew 7:1, that says, judge ye not, that ye be judged. That sounds more like God to me than a person that would throw someone in a fiery, burning furnace that they would gnash their teeth. That doesn't sound like the same God that the Bible says God is. The Bible says God is love, once again. So if God is love, and love is God, then God won't do those type of things to anyone. So you have to just, the best answer I can give is no, I don't believe that homosexuality is such a problem with God that He would send us to hell or in a place like that. And when it comes to the Bible, you have to be connected to God. I don't care what book it is, and I don't care who wrote it. You have to be connected to your Creator, and God knows the answer. God is the only one that has the answer for your life now and after. Okay, I think that God created, once again, as I said before, God is both male and female. And God is a God of diversity. Everything that God creates is different. There's no leaf that has the same design. There's no tree that's exactly the same. The roots don't look the same. The branches don't look the exact same. Maybe the same kind of tree beside each other. But if you was to really study the trees, they are very different in their makeup. So I could talk about trees. I could talk about waves in the water are different. If you really watch the waves in the water, each wave is different than the next wave. Or it may be, this wave is bigger, that one may be smaller. You know, of course, animals are different. Even twins, when they are born, or triplets, so I can go all the way to 6 toplets. They may look alike collectively as a whole, but they have individual differences. And as well as you may even find a slight bit difference even in the way they appear. You know, one may have a mark on their head if you look closely, or their hands could be shaped different. I knew twins. One weighed a little bit more, just a slight bit more, had a little bit more weight than the other twin had. So God, I believe God would be terribly bored if we were just robots. If we were all the same, you know, doing the same thing, you know, God would be bored. What is God's reason to do that? So God creates us all different for that reason. And I also believe that God also does that to us to test us in a way, to kind of like see, you know, are we going to be the loving, you know, humans that God wants us to be. So I believe that God does it for that reason, is He make us all different to try to teach us unity, to be a community, and unity is in community. And that's why I think God does that, because that was God's original plan, that we all live in peace and harmony with one another. So I think God throws different things out there to see if we all really going to follow God's original purpose and plan. I know more about here in Las Vegas, Nevada, of what's going on. And you know, I must say though that there is other cities and states where there is a I would call a movement of faith-based churches who are accepting the LGBT community, gay and lesbian community, and trans community. You know, like here locally in Las Vegas, there's, oh gosh, there's Abundant Peace, which is my church home, who is very accepting of all communities. Everybody's welcome, gay or straight and trans. And I'm actually one of the ministers of the music department in that particular church. But my pastor, oh gosh, you know, he fights hard with Human Rights Campaign for trans, for gays, when it comes to religion and faith, which he came from a religious background. He came out that he was he was married once to a woman and have children, but now he's an open gay pastor. And, you know, so he got, of course, discriminated and abandoned by a lot of people when he came out in the heterosexual religious world that he was a gay man, a gay pastor. Of course, he was scrutinized somewhat for that. But he fights hard, you know, to get our acceptance that we too, you know, have a connection to the Creator, regardless of our sexual orientation or gender expression. So he works hard for that. But there's other churches such as Resurrection Faith, Pastor Pat Spearman, who is another inclusive. The word we're using now is inclusive, which means including everyone. She has an inclusive church. There's a Jewish gay inclusive, they don't call it a church in the Jewish world, but they have a gathering, the Jewish, you know, gay. Catholic, I'm very close friends to a Catholic ministry who has a gay, you know, accepting church. Catholic, yes, Catholic. And, oh, I'm trying to think, oh gosh, there's Northwest Community Church here in Las Vegas, that's an inclusive church. I'm missing some. Open Door Community Church. There's several churches here that are inclusive and accepting LGBT persons in their congregation or in their group or meeting place. But it's happening in New York. It's happening in Dallas. We did a convention in July here in Las Vegas where people came from all over, and this was an inclusive Christian faith conference. And people came from California, from New York, Dallas, Mississippi, Knoxville, Tennessee, and all those were either gay and lesbian people and trans people, or they was people who just accepted us and accepted the fact that we are Christians too, or we have a faith-based religious background as well. So so the move is starting to happen, you know, like I said, more so than it's starting to be talked about a little in the Christian world, you know, but of course some people are not accepting it, but it's starting to be talked about. Even on a large level, there are certain bishops out there who are not gay, but they're opening up their church to the gay communities, and they're fighting against their peers to do that, you know, to condone that. So you know, so the religious part of the lifestyle is moving, you know, it's moving and it's starting to activate, and we're starting to stand up and say, wait a minute, we will not be pushed in the back no more. We believe in God too, you know, we believe we can pray too, and God answers prayer. We have faith too, and God performs miracles in our lives. We can do the same thing that you're doing. In fact, God, you know, I hate to sound so, but, you know, in the Bible, you know, God was really close to the scorned and rejected and hated. You know, those are the ones that Jesus attached to. Those are the ones that Jesus hung with. So I don't want to say that we're closer to God, you know, than anybody else, but I'll say this much. God he keeps a foot more so on the right, because he knows that we we are scorned, just as he was in the Bible. So, so no, there's a move going on. It's getting bigger and bigger. As long as we continue to do what we're doing right now, it will explode. It will explode. So yeah, in the Christian faith, the gay and lesbian and transgender community is moving forward, and we're standing up and saying God loves us too. Well, I first say that I understand why it would be hard to face a cold world, you know, that's, you know, against the idea of being a trans person. And I don't want to give you the wrong advice, you know, but what I will say is that we don't know in this life, we don't have any sureties of how long we're going to be given time here on earth. And God has given us all a path and a journey to follow. And me personally, I just haven't allowed people to make me miss out, even though it's hard, even though, you know, I have mountains to climb. I would rather get to the other side knowing that I experienced what was purposed for me to experience and allow someone to smother my whole purpose for being on this journey. Once again, I know that it's hard, you know, to face this society. I have to face society every day, and there's friends of mine, friends who are trans, who have to wake up and go out here, shop at the grocery stores, and meet all kinds of faces out there. But I just refuse to let people make me miss out on being me. You know, God created you with your feelings, your emotions, and how you feel. That's how God created you. And I will not let the next person, sometimes because of their insecurities, you know, and maybe they're scared because I am secure. I am secure with myself. So there are people that are afraid of secure people. You know, I don't care what gender you are. People are afraid of someone who's secure within themselves. So a lot of times they react out of that. But regardless of their reaction, I personally, Lady Jazmynne, I refuse to let anyone make me so uncomfortable that I live in misery because I can't express who I am because I'm worried about what the next man think or say. So that's the only thing I can say, you know, to trans people is that we only have this life, you know, for us on this side. We only have this life, and if you let it pass you by, once it's gone, it's gone. It's gone. Once this journey is over, this journey, I don't know about on the other side, this journey is gone, it's gone. And I refuse to let anybody, because of how they may think or feel, depict how I want to express my life and live my life on earth. So that's the best, safest advice that I can give to you. And when you face those people out there who may be judgmental or whatever, I mean, ignore it. I mean, you know, as long as they don't put their hands on you and harm you physically, you know, don't let what people say break you. Don't even let it make you, you know. You just be who you are, and, you know, and let that be. And let that be. That's the only thing I can say to you is just live. Okay, well, first I would like to say, probably again, that we are transgendered women, trans men. We are human. We are human. I'm going to say that again. We are human. If you would get out of your head that we're some weird aliens who arrived on a ship and landed on planet Earth and came through your womb, that separates it right there. Because we are human. We are human. You know, if you would see the human side first. I tell people I'm not first transgender and then human. I am first human and then transgender is my identification that society has stapled to identify me. But really, I'm human. That's what I am, first and foremost, before any other title or category. I am human. If you could learn to look at your children or your friends who are transgender as human, then anything else would diminish. It wouldn't even matter because you see them as human as you see yourself. Now, if you are a parent, I want to throw out there, how dare you discriminate against something that came from you? This child came from you. The very bloodline is connected to your DNA, your makeup. It is an image of you, mother and father, and grandmother and grandfather, the history. We are connected. Therefore, you know, I couldn't see, me personally, couldn't see myself rejecting or hating, turning away from my child for any reason. I mean, it's as bad as it may be for my kid to murder someone. And of course, I'd be disappointed. I would be disappointed and upset. But I would never turn my back on my child. This is my child. I would not love the action, but I would love my child, regardless of what he or she does. I would love my child. You know, if my child want to walk around in sheep clothes all day long and I love my child. I don't care what anybody else say. And that was how my mother was. She loved me in spite of whatever, whatever I identified myself as. So to parents, I say that. And to people who are friends with trans people or know of trans people or want to get to know trans people, see them as human. We do everything else that every other human does. In fact, I think you'll find us interesting if you get to know us a little bit better and find out. Then you will see for yourself that, okay, they're just as normal as we are. So that's what I give to the advice of parents and friends of trans and people who are trying to learn about trans. Is stop looking at us as aliens and look at us as humans, and you'll discover that we're just like you.